So it's a real pleasure to be talking today to Tom Arrand, who is the head of Cardiff Sixth Form College. So you're there in Cardiff at the moment, yeah?
I am indeed, yes. It's a beautiful day. After a pretty rubbish September, we're blessed with some wonderful October sunshine.
Now, Cardiff Sixth Form College does have a reputation as being a really high-performing educational institution. And how do you do that?
Wow. Start with an easy one. Okay. I mean, look, I think like all great schools and colleges, it's facilitated by incredible teaching and learning. Our teachers are experts in their field. We recruit teachers who are experts in their area of academic expertise with significant teaching experience. The majority of our staff have master's degrees, many have PhDs as well. Almost all of them are examiners or senior examiners. So the teaching side of teaching and learning is a real focus. And plus, they're absolutely committed to their pedagogy, their craft, and developing that continuously. But also, we seek to recruit students who are intellectually hungry and have high aspiration and want to learn. So it's a perfect blend, really, of the teacher and the learner and the culture, which just continues to feed academic success. And
do you think, I mean, is there more flexibility, perhaps more agility even in your models, because it's the sixth form focus?
Yes, definitely. And also the fact that we do what it says on the tin. I mean, we've got a very sort of, I don't want to say narrow, because we invest an enormous amount of effort and energy into pastoral care and co-curricular, super-curricular, and all the other trappings of an outstanding education. But we make it very, very clear that we expect and almost demand excellence from our teachers and from our students, and that's what we do. We are a high-performing academic environment, which is very attractive to many students and families who are seeking that and that alone. And there are brilliant schools out there that offer a different type of all-round education, and also offer the high academic standards as well. But we make it very clear that that is what we are about.
But there is news, isn't there, about feeding into that sixth form? Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I mean, for a while now, for 3 years, we've run a 1-year GCSE program, which has been very, very successful, and we found that has served to enhance and develop many of the students who then go on to join us for sixth form by giving them a GCSE profile. Almost all of them are from international students, and also helping them to sort of embed into the British education system. So we're saying, well, look, this works. We're going to now offer a 2-year GCSE, a full 2-year GCSE program, but we're sort of modeling it as a 4-year sixth form experience. So the students will have access to the sixth form type of careers and higher education, UCAS style guidance, plus the sixth form experience of the things as straightforward as the common room experience that you get in a sixth form college, but ultimately have a more enhanced experience of sitting their GCSEs in an academic environment, with the focus being on what happens after A levels. In other words, accessing the best universities in the world, and we're starting that from September 22.
Well, well done. That's probably had quite an impact on how you've been able to organise yourself, and even where you are, and so on, in the location and so on.
Yes, I mean, we are oversubscribed. It's a good problem to have. So we're addressing that in 2 ways. First of all, we have already announced that we're opening a second campus in Cambridge. So rather like the sort of Bradford and Bingley, having branches all over the UK, the Cardiff Sixth Form College is going to have a second campus in Cambridge. So CS. You're
still going to call it Cardiff Sixth Form College in Cambridge, or is it?
We thought a lot about the name, but actually, the name is well known nationally and internationally.
That is true.
So Cardiff Sixth Form College will have a second campus in Cambridge, one college, 2 campuses.
Mm.
That opens in September 2022, and Gareth Collier, the principal of Cardiff Sixth Form College, will be masterminding the opening of CSFC in Cambridge. But as far as us in Cardiff are concerned, the more exciting news for now is that we have just announced that we're actually looking to relocate into a bigger site, a sort of really bespoke teaching and learning environment down the road in Cardiff Bay. So we are in the process of acquiring a wonderful 19th century heritage site just opposite the Wales Millennium Centre near the Senedd, which will be transformed by 2026 into a world-leading teaching and learning facility. And that's where we will be delivering our teaching and learning from, hopefully before 2026, but we'll see how the project develops. And we'll be moving away from Newport Road, which is where we are at the moment, into the Bay, just in a few short years.
Yes, you make it sound so easy, but that's not the case. But that's something really interesting you just said there about 19th century building. You're talking about 21st century learning, and I just wonder what that means, that juxtaposition of the two. And what are your thoughts about that as kind of a platform for moving forward? You've written quite a bit about education and your views on education, and how should education be now, and how does that relate to the past?
Okay,
that's another easy question, by the way. Just right,
exactly. It's a book that I yet to write. I mean, look, first of all, in terms of celebrating the acquisition of a wonderful 19th century building, I mean that's actually more about us being anchored in Cardiff. I mean, Cardiff Bay is an astonishing area. It's been absolutely transformed over the last 20 years, and the holding on to these wonderful heritage buildings in Cardiff and making them come alive. These sites that we're in the process of purchasing have been derelict for 20 years, and making them come back to life,
yes,
just adds to the appeal of this incredible capital city. But in terms of learning, in terms of my views on learning and the future of learning, I could say so much. I am, on the one hand, a real traditionalist in terms of what education must be and what it stands for, in terms of having an academic and intellectual heart to it, grounded in strong values. But also, I think that there are areas of education which do require an intelligent discussion. I mean, for example, assessment. The pandemic has demonstrated that exams are not a pandemic resilient form of assessment, and nor is traditional classroom teaching and learning. But we did know before the pandemic that a pandemic was the #1 risk on the National Risk Register, above nuclear accidents and above flooding. So I think that how we approach blended learning, how we acknowledge through proper research rather than just through opinion what elements of learning online or sharing of information online really benefit learners, whereas what aspects of education must be grounded in the social and emotional contact of a face-to-face learning environment. And also assessment, because assessment really, the prevailing narrative is that, I think the DFE themselves tweeted before exams weren't cancelled in 21. In other words, when they were saying exams were going to go ahead in 2021, as they're saying they will now, that exams are the best and fairest way for students to show their potential. Well, I question both of those things. I question that they're the fairest way. It could be argued that they are a test of memory rather than a test of knowledge and understanding, but also that random failure is baked into the examination process. And actually, we've seen through the different systems of assessment that we've used in the last 2 years that certain types of learner actually perform much better in exams, but a lot worse by comparison through the teacher assessed process, whereas other types of learner excel in the teacher assessed process. I suppose it's like the old sort of discussion between coursework and exams, where frankly we observed, as we have here, girls performing much better in the teacher assessed process, but boys performing better in the examination process. So I think that the approach for me to what we do post-pandemic is have a proper research-driven discussion about blended learning and a proper intelligent discussion about how to assess. That is, what are we assessing? What should the process of assessment be? And how should we grade? Because we're obsessed as well with grades, and I think that needs a rethink. But there we are. That's as short as I can make it.
That might keep you busy. So do that, yes. And what's your sense of how the country will move forward? Not just nationally, actually. In fact, you're in a particular situation too, being in a devolved administration. So we've got the Welsh context, you've got the UK context, you've got the broader global context. And do you think that these are discussions that on all of those levels they will push forward in, that it will be different in the future? What's your sense of that?
I hope so.
Yeah.
My instinct is unfortunately that it's not that likely at the moment, but I really do hope that some really intelligent discussions about the future of education can take place, because British education is regarded around the world as really sort of being an incredible product, and it is. But there's no reason why we can't say how can we make it even better. And I think part of starting that conversation is really just sort of acknowledging very calmly that there are elements of the way that we're doing it at the moment which are grounded in frankly in a 19th century way of thinking. Now, exams, I would question whether exams are the fairest and the best way to assess students. What they are is the most efficient way to assess students, and that shouldn't be the reason for doing it that way. We need to ask ourselves the question, what is the best way and the fairest way to assess the knowledge and understanding and skills of young people at certain key stages in their lives? And for me,
why we should assess them.
Well, exactly. And for me, the answer really, I mean, I haven't formulated the policy around this at the moment, but the answer at the moment for me is that it should be a balance between formal unseen assessment, which I do believe plays a part, but also standardized continuous assessment or teacher assessment. I don't like that term for many reasons, but standardized continuous assessment, which is designed in such a way as to remove the possibility of bias and subjective judgment, clear criteria and so on, but also the assessment of practical skills in the creative subjects and the sciences, and the assessment of research skills in humanities subjects, coursework as we once called it. Now, I think if we assessed those three ways, we'd have a much fairer and cleaner and better way of assessing, how we're actually progressing students and how they're learning.
So if you had a crystal ball then, and you looked 5 years into the future, what do you think the education system will look like then? And not just from assessment, but from a broader perspective. What do you think?
Well, I think without a doubt, governments, UK government, Welsh government, Scottish government, need to address inequality in education. That is an absolute given, and that's not a discussion that I can really offer much towards as a head of an independent school, but it does need to be addressed. And independent schools, will continue to play their part in that process, which is right and good and proper. I'm not going to talk too much about that because it's a difficult area for someone in my position to talk about, other than we, like most independent schools, offer a considerable number of very generous scholarships and work very hard with our partners in the local area to ensure that we're contributing to the future of education. And it comes down to, we've moved online for quite a long period of time. But there's the sort of deficit in just access to IT, which needs to be addressed. In terms, however, of the assessment of young people at key stages, in terms of asking those big, rich questions about what education is for at the end of it, I really do hope that those discussions do advance, and I also hope that governments can look at this in the round and actually engage with head teachers, educators, and also people from outside secondary education in the university sector and in employment, to ask ourselves much bigger and richer questions about what education is for. My crystal ball, unfortunately, I've been in education for 23 years, and whilst I've been through some reforms of note, from I was teaching old style A levels when I started, then we went through curriculum 2000, and then they've been reformed again under Michael Gove. None of these reforms really seem to sort of address those big challenges, those big questions. I mean, the first thing, if I could just have one thing on my wish list, it would be that we completely change the way that we grade. I think the obsession with A stars and A's is unhealthy. It's a media obsession. It always leads to very unhelpful conversations about grade inflation, which lack any form of nuance or understanding. Personally, I think that the fact is that if the difference between an A star and an A is that an A star could be 90% and an A could be 89%, but an A could also be 70% and an A star 100%, you've got a vast gap between a low A and a high A star, or a very high A and a low A star. So why don't we just have more grades? I mean, it could either just be that someone carries their UMS as their qualification, that's one way, or we could say, we have a sort of a point scale. Let's say, I don't know, 5.5 is the highest possible score and 1.0 is the lowest. And therefore, if a 5 equals what we would now call an A star, you could divide that into 5 sections. Again, these aren't policy areas that I'm putting forward to anybody in education, but if they ask me, I'll certainly share them. I think that we've got to get over this obsession with grades. It complicates things at the UCAS side, in terms of predicting a UCAS grade for a student, which is a minefield in its own right. And it also complicates things at the other end in August when the media just obsess over the rate of A stars and A's, and actually should be thinking a lot more about the other end, where 30% failure is a baked in part of the process, which seems ridiculous.
Yes. Yes, there is so much to do in education, isn't there? So much to do. Well, listen, we're going to bring this to a close just now, because we've run out of time, but it's been so nice speaking to you. So thank you very much. Good luck with your big plans and
thank you.
And all this move and the GCSE, the 4-year sixth form experience, and Cardiff Sixth Form College in Cambridge. Goodness me, there's such a lot going on. Right, well,
we don't sit still here.
Yes. Well, thank you ever so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Helen.